Welcome to the deep dive. Imagine your world is just shattered, your most sacred place desecrated, faith symbols destroyed, leaders well silenced. This isn't just history, it's this raw, visceral agony that's really behind Psalm 74. That's the ancient text we're diving into
Yeah.
today. Our sources, they show how this communal lament born from total devastation actually gives us a framework, a really strong one for navigating our own moments of loss.
Yeah.
And the spiritual challenge, ultimately, it's about deepening our reliance on something, well, bigger than ourselves. So our mission today is to explore this ancient cry to God right from the middle of devastation. And we're talking about lament, which isn't just complaining, right? It's this deep, passionate outpouring of grief, sorrow, even asking really hard questions directly to God, trusting he can handle it. We want to uncover how its timeless lessons can really reshape our confidence, our connection with the divine, especially in our own tough times.
Yeah. And what's so fascinating here is how an ancient lament, tied to a specific historical crisis, just echoes experiences we all have. It's universal.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the enduring power of faith, doesn't it? Even when everything around you seems to be falling apart.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that it's not about ignoring the pain or pretending it's not there. It's more about transforming that pain through this honest dialogue with God.
Mm.
And that can be a path to a much deeper, more, authentic faith. It kind of challenges what we think true faith looks like.
Okay, so let's really unpack this incredible text. We're diving into Psalm 74. Our sources call it a communal lament, most likely written during or maybe right after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. I mean, just try to picture that scene. Utter devastation,
Hard to even imagine.
right? A
Yeah.
sacred place, just rubble. And the people just reeling, questioning everything. And the psalmist starts not with praise, but with this direct, almost heartbreaking accusation really aimed at God. The language is searing. Why hast thou cast us off forever? Why doth thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture? It's an appeal deep down for God to remember his people, his congregation, Mount Zion, his home, now just ruins. This isn't quiet. It's a desperate shout.
And that opening sets such an important tone. Our sources really stress this. It tells us it's okay, actually vital, to voice our rawest questions, our deepest pain, straight to God. Many ancient cultures doing that, challenging the divine. That would be blasphemy, total disrespect.
Right.
Yet Psalm 74 models this as you said, vital spiritual engagement. It's not weakness. It's bringing your absolute unvarnished self to God, trusting he can handle it, maybe even transform it. It reframes trust. It's not passive acceptance. It's active, painful engagement.
And the description of the destruction, wow, it's so vivid, like watching a movie. Enemies aren't just attacking, they're defiling the holy place, burning the sanctuary, smashing every symbol of faith. Our sources mention it, even talks about burning all the synagogues in the land. Just total cultural and spiritual wipeout.
Yeah, total obliteration.
And the psalmist is lamenting. There's no prophetic guidance, no sign from God. Wondering why God seems to be holding back, he asks, "Oh God, how long shall the adversary reproach?" Such a sense of abandonment.
And that specific detail, the defiled sanctuary, no signs, no prophets, it really highlights that feeling of complete abandonment, total confusion. It's like all the familiar markers of faith are just gone. The temple, the prophets, that sense of God's presence, leaving this deep spiritual void. And that feels a lot like things we can experience today, right? When our own foundations shake or the answers just aren't there. It's an incredible picture of spiritual desolation.
You'd think after that opening, the psalm would just stay in despair, wouldn't you?
You might expect that, yeah.
But this is where it takes this powerful, really unexpected turn. Our sources highlight this as key for resilient faith. Despite the despair, the psalmist pivots dramatically. There's this powerful appeal to God's past power, his sovereignty. The psalm starts recalling God's mighty acts, dividing the sea, breaking the heads of sea monsters like Leviathan, cleaving fountains, drying up rivers.
Yeah, the creation story is the Exodus.
Exactly. Affirming God's rule over day, night, seasons, the earth's borders. It's a massive shift. You mentioned Leviathan, verses 12-17, this shift from suffering to God's past power. What's the deal with evoking something like breaking the heads of sea monsters when your nation is devastated?
That's a crucial point. And this is where it gets really deep, like you said.
Yeah.
Our sources explain it's not just about some literal sea creature.
Cool.
Leviathan in the ancient Near East was this huge symbol.
Okay.
It represented chaos, the primordial monster, the unruly, destructive forces that many cultures believed were just part of the universe.
Right, the chaos monster.
Exactly. So by saying Yahweh defeated Leviathan, the psalmist is making a huge theological claim. He's saying, look, if God conquered cosmic chaos,
Yeah.
if he established the very order of creation itself, Surely he can handle our current mess, our earthly chaos.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
It's strategic. It's meant to ground their hope in God's ultimate unshakable power, even when things feel totally out of control right now. It's a deliberate act of remembering,
Yeah.
recentering.
Wow. That really does ground faith beyond just the immediate pain. And then the song closes with this fervent prayer for justice, right? A call for God to defend his own name, remember his covenant, act against the enemy, asking God to arise, O God, plead thine own cause.
Yeah.
Feels almost audacious.
It does. And connecting it to the bigger picture, it shows lament isn't passive. It's not just sitting in sadness. It's an active journey.
Hmm.
You question, you express the pain, then you remember God's character, his power, and then you make this confident active appeal for intervention. But notice, it's aligned with God's justice, his reputation. It's the full spectrum of engaging with God, not just, you know, a list of complaints.
So we've journeyed through Psalm 74. What can we actually take from this ancient wisdom? How does it strengthen our faith, our connection with God today?
That's the key question, isn't it? How does this ancient cry of pain and hope actually help us build a more resilient faith now in our world, which often feels just as chaotic?
Well, first, I think the psalm screams that lament is faithful, not faithless. We kind of touched on this. Crying out to God when you're devastated. That's an act of trust, deep trust, not rebellion. It's bringing your real, raw self to God, trusting he can handle the pain, the questions, he can use them. That honesty is foundational.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, our sources point out that authenticity is the act of trust. It's not just bringing problems, it's bringing your unfiltered self. Believing God can hear that vulnerability and respond, deepening the bond like superficial pleasantries never could.
Yeah.
It's that counterintuitive idea. Trust is often forged in the fire of honest questioning.
Second, the psalm really shows how memory fuels hope. Remembering God's deliverance, big Bible stories, or even stuff in our own lives, it strengthens faith during trials now. It's like that spiritual anchor in a storm, a fixed point.
And it's not just being nostalgic, right? It's a strategic spiritual practice. Actively recalling how God showed up before builds real confidence. He'll do it again. Our minds tend to focus on the current problem, but deliberately remembering past mercies, past help. It solidifies our reliance on God's steady character, gives hope a solid footing.
And third, it reminds us God's covenant endures. Even when everything looks hopeless, God's promises are stable. That unchanging promise is like bedrock for our relationship with him.
That's critical for confidence, because covenant here isn't just a simple promise. It's a deep, binding pact. Relational commitment, unbreakable.
Right.
Our sources emphasize that framework of mutual faithfulness. If God's side of the pact is stable, enduring, then our connection has this constant foundation, and no matter the chaos around us. It assures us, even when we feel forgotten, we're actually remembered.
And finally, the psalm shows prayer aligns us with justice. Asking God to act isn't just about my relief, my needs. It's about his name, his larger purposes being honored. It shifts our view from just our own problems to God's bigger plan for justice, and that deepens our commitment, our connection.
Exactly. Lament becomes more than personal petition. It's like active partnership with God. Praying for God's cause means we're not just asking for help, we're joining his mission. Reaffirming our belief, he is just and will ultimately make things right. It moves prayer beyond self-interest.
So boiling it down, what does this mean for you listening today? How do these ancient ideas actually strengthen your confidence, your relationship with God right now?
Well, you can see these themes playing out in really relevant ways, big and small.
Think about national or global crises, like the psalmist saw Jerusalem destroyed. Communities today facing war, disaster, pandemics, moral decay. They can turn to God with that same honest lament. Seeking restoration, but also consciously remembering his past faithfulness in history. It becomes a collective act of trust when human answers just aren't enough. It can stave off total despair.
Yeah, lets us process collective trauma through faith. Gives voice to shared pain, but channels it into a hope-filled plea for action. It's like communal spiritual resilience, a shared anchor.
And on a really personal level, think about personal loss. Grief, financial ruin, betrayal, dreams crashing down.
Right.
When life feels like ruin. Psalm 74 teaches us, honestly, yes, but also recall God's enduring love, his past faithfulness in your life. That builds such a deeper, more intimate relationship because you're bringing your whole broken self, not a fake everything's fine version.
That's precisely it. That's where authentic confidence gets forged, in that fire. Learning to lean on God's love, his presence, even when everything else feels stripped away. Realizing that bringing your raw emotions isn't weakness, it's the very thing that strengthens the connection.
Even for the church today, When faith feels attacked, or truth seems twisted, or maybe the church loses its way, the psalm reminds believers: trust God's ultimate sovereignty. Pray boldly for his justice. It strengthens collective faith, gives purpose, reminds everyone of a shared hope beyond the immediate issues.
Mhm.
And finally, just for mental, emotional resilience, remembering times God carried you through, that builds incredible strength for current challenges. Memory really is a spiritual anchor for our relationship with God, reminds us of his character, our ability to overcome with him. It's fortitude rooted in faithfulness.
So the core takeaway is just so powerful. Psalm 74 shows lament and hope aren't opposites, they're linked. Even standing in the ruins, remembering God's past actions, his promises, that gives courage. Courage to pray boldly for justice, for restoration. And doing that, it deepens our trust, strengthens our relationship with him fundamentally.
What an incredible deep dive. Seeing how honest lament, really anchored in remembering God's faithfulness, can actually be a pathway to profound trust, a stronger relationship with God. It's not about pretending, is it? It's about bringing our actual brokenness to a God who remembers and
Yeah.
who acts.
Which leaves us with a really important question, I think, for each of us navigating our own challenges. How will you allow your laments to become a pathway to deeper trust and spiritual resilience in your own life?